Hi. So I have this cherry that I milled up a couple of years ago. I'm thinking I should finally just use it. So I have some picture frames that I want to make. So I think I'll do that with it. So we'll do that. So the pieces aren't really big enough for a whole lot, so that's one of the reasons why I thought doing some smallish picture frames would be good with these. And the wood's got a really pretty grain to it.
So being cherry, these boards really moved a lot when they dried, so it was amazing. I found 4 or so of them that were straight enough to even make the frames with. So that the first thing to do was to face joint them and then plane them to get them nice and straight. I think I ended up with about 1 inch of thickness. Then I cut them into strips of about 2 inches wide. So I had my final dimensions cut. Then what I needed to do was cut the space for the frame and the glass and the picture and all the things that were going to go into the frame. This is about a cutout of 1 inch of width and 1/2 inch of height. And it can kind of vary from this.
So this is my frame mitering jig, and it allows you to cut a miter on one side. So you cut one side, and then the nice thing about it is you've got this stop, so you can set the length that you make your second cut at. And so for making a picture frame, you need to have either 2 or 4 sides all the same length, so this makes it really easy to do that.
I made this jig like 6 or 7 years ago, so I've had it for a little while. I found a nice PDF of how to make it, which I'll put a link to in the description down below. And I did a little movie a couple years ago describing it a lot better, which I will also put a link down below too. So that's how the pieces go together. And to start, I'll just glue the corners. It's just a matter of putting some glue on each end and then putting them together. And the band clamp works really well to hold the frame together while the glue dries. Then I'll take the clamps off. To strengthen the corners, I used to do a little thing with a dowel that has a drill bit that goes with it, and you pound the dowel in like a nail basically, and it gives you a little wooden spike that holds the corner together, and it gives you a little dot at the corner. But I thought on this one I'd try doing a spline at each corner. So I had made a jig for this years and years ago, and I just kind of had made it up before I'd even seen what people even do to make a spline jig. So it isn't really as wide as I think most people make them. So I thought what I needed was some height on my fence to hold the jig stable as it goes through the blade. So I made a much taller fence that I could clamp to the fence on the table saw. And the clamps can be at the ends of the fence because the jig and the frame don't have to actually pass the ends of the fence. I'm just working in the center of the fence with the frame and the jig. Then I needed to cut the actual spline pieces, so I found a piece of walnut that I had and cut a thin strip. And then from that I cut some triangles that could work as the splines. So I just glued those and put them in place. And then the band clamp worked to hold those splines in place as the glue dried. And then everything's glued together. And the little bit of extra spline I can sand off. And then sand the whole piece, sort of to give it a final finish. And then some finish. I'm using my tried and true beeswax linseed oil mix, which is getting down to the dregs of the can. I'm going to need to get some more. I like to put it on thick at first and then let it dry a little bit, like an hour or so, and then wipe off the extra, and it gives a nice kind of smooth matte finish. Then the frames are done, so it's ready to start putting things together. So the first thing I want to do is add a little piece of hardware to hang the picture on the wall with. It comes with 2 nails to hold it in, so I like to drill 2 little holes for those nails so they'll kind of slide in a little better. And with those holes, it'll hold the piece in exactly the right place. It won't move around, and the nails won't go crooked or bend or anything. Now the method I use for actually holding everything in the frame is with nails, and what I like to do is put everything in and then mark a line at the thickness of all of that stuff that's going to be in the frame. And then pull everything out. And at this point I realized I needed to attach the actual picture to the mat. So I'll just use tape. I think Scotch tape is acid free, but it may not be. But even if it's not actually touching the artwork, so it should be okay. Then I'll drill some holes at that line that I drew. You can see here. So I think I did 3 along the long side and 2 along the short side. And then I can put everything back in again. The glass, the mat and picture, and the backing. And then I can carefully tap in some nails into those holes that I drilled. And they'll sort of stick out and they'll hold the backing in place, and they'll sort of hold the whole sandwich of material together. There it is. It seems to not be falling out, so that's good. Then it was back in the house to figure out where to hang them. So I did a whole bunch of measuring and figuring and finally got 2 places for the 2 pictures. And I tapped in some picture hangers and hung the pictures. And it actually turned out really nice. And one thing that I realized about these, they're bridges here in Portland, and the tree that I got the cherry from and the tree that I got the walnut from are within about a mile or 2 of these bridges. So they're very local, sort of very Portland pictures, both in the frame and in the subject. Thanks for watching.